I hate it. I hate it for my middle schoolers. It's not been good at all.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the time is 7:01. I wish to call this meeting of the Grosse Pointe Park Recreation Commission to order. Stacy, could you call the roll, please?
No, I wasn't prepared. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm not prepared at all because I thought I was not doing that role.
Well,
Yeah. She won't be. It would probably be Chris actually calling the roll, but I can do it for the evening. If I miss anybody, let me know. Bob Plaza,
present.
Chad Craig, myself present. Chris Delmage,
Present.
Laurie Reed,
Here.
Stacy Jarvis,
Here.
Roy Edmonds,
Present.
Mike Kindling,
Present.
Mike Bannon,
Here.
Marty McMillan,
Present.
James Kunick,
Here.
Larry Haggart,
Here.
Sarah Coates.
Here.
I believe that covers everyone. Anyone I'm missing, Bob?
Looks good.
Perfect.
The next item after the roll call is the approval of the November 4th, 2020 minutes. I hear a motion.
Go ahead, Marty.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do I hear support?
Support.
Any discussion, changes, modifications, edits?
I read through them. They're accurate and complete. I would approve them as is.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any not in favor, say nay. Hearing no nays, the minutes are unanimously approved.
Bob, I would like to go ahead and amend the agenda and go ahead and do the selection of officers now before we go into public comment.
Thank you, Craig, Chad, for mentioning that. On the selection of officers, do I hear a nomination for president? Or I mean, chairman of the commission?
Bob, I would like to nominate you to be chair if you're willing to so serve.
Thank you, Marty. I am willing to serve.
I would second that nomination.
Thank you, Roy. All in favor of Bob Plaza for chairman, say aye.
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 Aye. Any not in favor, say nay. Hearing no nays, I'm unanimously selected.
Congratulations, Bob.
Do I hear a nomination for vice president? Or I mean, vice chairman, rather. Excuse me.
I'll nominate Roy Edmonds.
Roy, do you accept that nomination?
I would accept that nomination, yes.
I'll second it. Marty
Thank you
will
very
second
much.
it.
Thank you. All in favor of Roy Edmonds for vice chairman, say aye.
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 Anyone not in favor of Roy Edmonds for vice chairman, say nay. Hearing no nays, Roy, you are unanimously selected for vice chairman.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll do the best I can.
Thank you very much. I wish to nominate Stacy Jarvis for secretary. Do I hear a second on that?
I would second that.
Second it.
Thank you. Stacy, do you accept the nomination and seconding for secretary?
I accept.
Thank you very much. All in favor of Stacy Jarvis for secretary, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone not in favor, say nay. Hearing no nays, Stacy, you are selected for secretary. Thank you so very much for your due diligence and years of service.
Thank you.
The next item is public comment for agenda items only. And I suppose that we have a 3-minute clock ready to start potentially.
Chris, do you have the clock ready to be able to share that for us?
Yep, just give me 1 second, pull it up here.
Sure, no problem. And then once you get that, set up, then I'll let you take a look in the waiting room just to make sure we don't have anybody.
We have a few hands raised, so I'm going to go ahead and start with Mrs.
on.
Rock.
Hold on one second. I'm sorry, Chris. Can you just double check that waiting room and make sure we don't have anybody that's waiting to get in?
I think we have all in.
Perfect. Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
So if you wouldn't mind stating your name, and Mrs. Rock, you can go first.
Okay, hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Ann Rock. I live at 745 Grand Marais. I'd like to focus on two areas, then thank you also for the chance to speak. The first one is sound mitigation. The planning process did not include a sound study, and that is something that adjacent residents had to pay for themselves. It was prepared by Soundscape Engineering, which I forwarded to the committee.
Mr. Chair, a point of order. I'm not sure what this has to do with any of the agenda items, Bob.
Yes,
I'm not sure that what's being discussed has anything to do with any of the agenda items. It's something
would
about
have-
reimbursement for a sound study that has nothing to do with any of the agenda items.
that is correct. Point
No,
of order, and I would have to say that this item that you're mentioning is out of order
Why is that?
because it's not on the agenda.
The dog park is on the agenda.
The dog park
Rules.
rules of order are on agenda, not the dog park itself. I'm sorry.
So, and Bob, just, I would ask that you reconsider the point of order solely because that as this deals with the rules we do have, we're talking about whether to adopt rules that involve things like the disruptive dogs, et cetera. And I think the sound does relate. And I have no trouble sitting here and hearing the public comment on it. So I'd simply ask you to reconsider your ruling.
Okay, I reconsider my ruling, and if you would start the 3-minute clock over, I thank you so very much, Mike, for your ruling. Okay, Ms. Rock, please.
Thank you, and thank you again for consideration. I appreciate it. The planning process did not include a sound study, and that is something that we had to pay for ourselves. We hired Soundscape Engineering, and their study, which you all have by now, clearly contradicts the statements in the report that the noise in the dog park will not present a problem to neighbors or park users. To quote from the report, people find intermittent dog barking more annoying than steady such as a fan or desirable nature sounds like waves, rain, or a babbling brook. Dog parks from Site A will be clearly audible on the properties along the east side of Patterson Park when a non-solid fence is installed. Even a solid fence means that dog barks will be perceived as noticeable to nearly twice as loud as the current ambient sound level. Furthermore, a single row of trees or bushes will not reduce sound. Vegetation needs to be dense year-round and at least 20 feet wide. The best option for Area A is a 6 to 8 foot solid fence of wooded tongue and groove that runs on the east side as well as all of the south side and part of the north side of the park. This does not reduce the sound to ambient level, but it is a noticeable reduction. Furthermore, they went on to say that Site D significantly reduces the sound level along the Grand Marais boundary while not substantially raising it on Bedford when a solid fence is installed on the Bedford side. Furthermore, noise from the dog park will be heard by all users of Patterson, not just those on Bedford or Grand Marais. The point being that we were told that with mitigation, that we would hear sounds like a babbling brook. Soundscape Engineering, which has offices in Ann Arbor and Chicago, did their due diligence in a rigorous study that showed that there will be a huge sound effect for not only the people on Grand Marais, but also people on Bedford and people throughout the park. So I'm asking, as part of the rules, one, we talked about mitigation and would like to continue that dialogue. But more importantly, we would like to ask that this be referred to the master plan to see where this fits in to build the best park for all dog park users and residents in Grosse Pointe Park. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Next,
All right, Derek, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you if you wouldn't mind stating your name for the record.
Hi there, I'm Derek Quinn and I live at 1130 Beaconsfield. I'd like to respond to the sound study comment, which thank you for that information. Thank you for taking the time to comment, by the way. It's a pleasure to comment with other citizens like yourself. However, I'd like to say that a privately funded sound study is implicitly biased. And I asked you to consider the emotion behind involving dogs in our community. I think Grosse Pointe Park would benefit from more dogs in the neighborhood and responsible dog owners with them. It just seems to me that without a dog park, sound or not, dogs are going to be in the community anyway. So it would benefit us to have a centralized place to take dogs safely. And it would benefit the community overall. I'll cede the rest of my time.
Thank you.
thank you very much for your comment.
Mr. Gleason, go ahead.
Hi, this is Joe Gleason. I want to start by, this isn't us versus them. This is about planning and the community involvement. Patterson was built as a place to be safe for families to enjoy, for the elderly to walk without fear, and for those covered under the protection of the Americans with Disabilities Act to feel valued and safe. And especially our children of this community, those who have special needs. Patterson in many ways was built for them. Those children often can't see danger coming. Simply put, the rules are not going to allow for a way to keep those children safe. They won't be able to defend themselves, and the families of those individuals will not be feel valued. I love dogs. I have dogs. My friends have dogs. All three of my kids have been attacked by dogs by people who promised me their dog was safe. I don't know what rules you're talking about that can keep families safe on the way there. This park, should you continue, the family's going to feel that this is no longer an American for Disabilities friendly park. So if we're serious about planning, we need to do it in a way that involves real feedback from the family. The way this park selection went was a private donator specified the location, and council members specifically rushed it through who were friends of those donors. That is not how a community moves forward. If we want to protect the kids, the elderly of this community, we need to reconsider the location, because this is not going to happen. There is no one on this call that can say with certainty a special needs child or an adult, an aging senior, will not be attacked under the current program. That's it.
Thank you very much for your comment. Could I have the next public comment, please?
Kelly, I went and unmuted you if you wouldn't mind stating your name for the record.
Apologies. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, if you can reset the clock. Thank you. Hi, Kelly Victor, Grosse Pointe Park resident. I'm here to comment on the dog park agenda item. As newer residents of Grosse Pointe Park, we moved here with our young family to the city because of the exceptional parks, public schools, beautiful old homes, and specifically because it was the most inclusive and diverse of the points. Since we moved here, I've listened to public comments in all the city meetings and heard actual facts and data that create overwhelming reasons why this dog park project at Site A should be paused for additional consideration and incorporated into the master plan. I've heard them be repeated exhaustively. Along with other residents, we've offered written up documents to the city to simply consider all aspects of how this location will impact the city. We've done research with other city planners in communities like Birmingham, among others, to better understand best practices, comparable budgets, et cetera. And I've heard recreation members try to add reasonable objections to the current plan and question fundamental elements of the planning efforts. Every effort to insert reason into this discussion has been ignored by Nick Zeisland and Mayor Denner. At every turn, our city administration has catered to a complaining group of dog owners that want nothing more than a dog park at any cost. And there's just not been enough consideration for the community as a whole. And I just want to reiterate loudly, no one has said we do not want a dog park in Grosse Pointe Park. But I ask you, why does it have to be so poorly planned with such a high cost to the city at the end of the day? There's a reason why for nearly a decade, protectors of our city parks have rejected the idea of a dog park being put inside Patterson and beyond. There are comments on Facebook that say the city at large supports a dog park at Site A. However, there is no actual evidence to support this. The workshops conducted even lead towards Site D. The progress to date does not add up. Results are angry residents on all sides, one poorly selected location with no plan or budget. So my ask is, can we just hit pause and do this correctly? There's no point in talking about dog park rules today when there are still several fundamental elements missing to the current plan, including but not limited to Backyard's design doesn't include proper materials, turf to support dog use, ignored drainage concerns in Site A. It turns into actual mud pit after it rains. How could this be the ideal spot when turf is considered? A lack of true cost estimate for this allotment size. There's no operating budget, but most importantly, the location is a beautiful portion of the park utilized by so many. I know because I can see them out my window. The claim that this area is underutilized is a deliberate lie. And I urge you to ask Nick to put this under the master plan for my fellow residents, neighbors, and general. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments.
All right, Leah, I went ahead and unmuted you if you wouldn't mind stating your name for the record.
Sure. My name is Leah Hecht. I'm a recent resident of Grosse Pointe Park and have really appreciated the inclusivity of this community. It's been really wonderful. Having just moved in here within the last year, it's been an overwhelmingly positive experience. I've been in a lot of cities where dog parks have been openly welcome, and I find that this is a really wonderful place to socialize and to get to know other responsible dog owners in the community. And I think, ultimately, we can't rely on arguments about fear or about poor planning to allow this project not to move forward. It's clearly a need that's been expressed by the community residents at large. And I would just want to urge the committee to continue to move forward and just want to voice my support and my joy for living in this community.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Matthew, I went ahead and unmuted you. If you wouldn't mind stating your name for the record, please.
Yes, it's Matthew Howe, and I'm a resident of Grosse Pointe Park. I just want to make a comment about where the dog park and the dog park rules fit into the overall city planning process. I've had an opportunity to review some city plans, and a project of this size and scope is a classic project that should be considered as part of the overall city plan, and specifically as part of a Parks and Recreation plan, and its component of the overall. Including it into the master plan will ensure that the key goals of any Parks and
Mr. Howe, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Can you hear me better now? Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, stay close to the microphone.
Okay, I'll read that sentence again. Including it into the master plan will ensure that the key goals of any Parks and Recreation open space plan are met, namely providing an exceptional user experience, ensuring that the park system is a comprehensive, inclusive and engaging. It will also help foster environmental stewardship and sustainability, and also provide a safe park system, and will ensure financial health and stability. The other big benefit of including this project and other projects of this size and scope in the city plan is that the projects can be reviewed and evaluated in comparison to other plans, and it will also enable us to use a standardized approach and lens to ensure that the goals are being met and the right projects move forward with the right characteristics in the right locations. In short, it is an analytical approach to local government that reduces risks and ensures great outcomes for the community. Some of the benefits includes evaluating projects in relation to sustainability frameworks, safety compliance, funding, coordination with other projects, the fit into the overall master plan objectives, user experience, addressing the needs of the community by geographic area, innovation, economic development / retention, partnership potential, operations and maintenance, and lastly, energy consumption and costs. I therefore urge the committee to include the dog park as part of the overall master plan, as other.
You lost him.
Mr. Howe for your comment.
I'm done.
Thank you. Anna, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. If you wouldn't mind stating your full name for the record, please.
Thank you. My name is Anna Signorino. We're talking about dog park inside Patterson Park and dog park rules. And the question is not so much what are the dog park rules, but should we have a dog park inside Patterson Park? Not to say that we shouldn't have a dog park inside Grosse Pointe Park city limits, but should that dog park be inside Patterson Park? Residents and administrators have considered adding a dog park inside our city limits for more than a decade. It was always denied because our land is limited to just over 2 square miles. Prior administrators and the commission members were diligent in keeping our city parks free from dogs because of the destruction that they cause to the land and to the well-being of all residents. For more than 50 years, dogs were prohibited from being inside our city parks, which is why we have inherited such beautiful parkland to enjoy. So the question is, what happened? We can blame residents like Mike Bannon, Brian Haberstroh, John Martin, and a few others who relentlessly pushed for dog park passes. So in 2018, 100 dog park passes were allowed inside of our city parks. We could also blame city council members. We can blame Grano, Detweiler, Clark, Denner for pushing through the dog park proposal in 2019 without any public notice whatsoever. We can blame the Cottons for anonymously donating and funding the project. We can blame our desire of keeping up with the Joneses. Well, if the Woods and if the Farms has a dog park, we should have one too. We can blame the American Kennel Club and capitalism for moving dogs from the backyard dog houses into homes, businesses, parks, and airplanes. And it's always easy to blame somebody else, but it doesn't help. The reality is each one of us today must accept responsibility for allowing our city parks to prioritize the comfort of dogs over the well-being of people. We're seeing society shifting back and prioritizing people over dogs. Recently, the last US airline announced it will prohibit emotional support animals from passenger cabins. Businesses are again prohibiting dogs from entering. Dog parks across the nation are closing. Here in Grosse Pointe Park, we too today must stop prioritizing the comfort of animals over the well-being of people. How can we honestly justify sectioning off more than 1/2 acre of our gorgeous, pristine park for all of us to enjoy and hand it over to the dogs that will destroy that parkland? It's not a question of should we have a dog park and what are the dog park rules? No, the question is, and the matter is, protecting our people, our residents, our beautiful land so that we have something to pass on to our children and to the next generation. But in order to do that, we must once again prohibit dogs from entering our city parks. We must change the 2018 city ordinance and revoke all dog park passes. We cannot allow dogs to urinate on our shrubs and on our land. We must commit to preserving this valuable resource. And upon doing so, I, Anna Signorino, with my family, John Signorino, and our children, we pledged $10,000 for the protection and the sustainability of Patterson Park. Thank you for your consideration of moving the dog park outside of Patterson Park and into an area that doesn't bother other residents.
Thank you for your comment. Next, please.
Jared, if you wouldn't mind stating your name for the record, please.
Hi, My name is Jared Cudzia. Obviously Grosse Pointe Park resident. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Obviously, there's been a bit of a heated debate over the safety, community impact of the dog park. As if Grosse Pointe Park is proposing building a completely unproven or untested concept, which is very clearly not true. The community value, safety, and overall benefit to humans and dogs alike is backed by years, decades of data widely available from countless reputable sources from coast to coast. This is nothing new. This is nothing groundbreaking and amazing that we're trying to do here. The group that has been fairly strongly arguing against this that we're hearing from today, some of which have been arguing the same kind of points that have been repeatedly addressed and discredited. Cherry picking anecdotal accounts of the worst possible scenarios that could happen in a dog park, trying to scare the city and its residents into submission so they can continue to use Patterson Park as their own personal private park. This group in one iteration or another has fought a multitude of improvements to Patterson Park that are valued and utilized by a large portion of the city's residents. They repeatedly flouted the rules the rest of us in the city abide by. They have private backyard gates to Patterson that they unapologetically use whenever they please to gain access to the community resources that they view as their own. Some of the most vocal members of this group have been widely known to let their own dogs run off leash in Patterson Park on a regular basis. The exact thing that they want us to believe is completely unacceptable and dangerous to the community. This opposition group is a do as I say, not as I do outfit, and are looking out for their best interests, not that of the community. I bring years of practical, real-life, hands-on experience planning, designing, developing, and running Detroit Dog Park, the first official off-leash dog park in Detroit history. My fellow nonprofit board members and myself partnered with PetSmart to become only the second instance of their pop-up park program nationwide behind their own internal pilot park. The success, safety, and community appreciation of this park led PetSmart to donate over $40,000 worth of park infrastructure to Detroit Dog Park to ensure it continues to be a beloved community asset. And 5 safe and successful years later, we are now in the final stages of handing the park back over to the city of Detroit. They're taking it back willingly and folding it into their Parks and Rec departments so they can continue to provide this asset to their community. I've worked tirelessly over the last 4 years to plan and develop a best-in-class dog park, not alone, with several other residents who are being called out as being apparently some sort of terrorists. I've spent hundreds of hours researching and analyzing the critical elements of every possible dog park site in the city, as well as meeting with residents and engaging with them online and in person to understand the growing needs and desires of this ever-changing population of this great city. The argument that this dog park proposal lacks meaningful or informed planning, community interest, or engagement are patently false and insulting to the city and people who live here. Patterson Park is for all members of this community, not just a select few. Like the city, we have a growing and evolving tax-paying and voting population. To remain a destination for many young professionals and families, the city needs to grow and evolve with them, not hold back and retain what worked 20 years ago, 30 years ago. A city is a moving, breathing thing. It's popular.
Can you finish up, Jared? I'm sorry to cut you off. You're out of time.
Yeah, sorry. No, okay. All right, I'm done.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jared.
Dion, I've unmuted you. If you wouldn't mind stating your full name for the record, please.
Looks like he's still muted on my screen.
All right, well, we're going to move on from him and we can come back to him. Carolyn, I've went ahead and unmuted you. If you wouldn't mind saying your name for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Carolyn Abdenor Bogues, and I am a resident at the 1300 block of Kensington. I'm going to mix it up a bit, and I have a comment about 2 other items. First, the date skate. I wanted to say thank you for providing an adults only opportunity. If it wasn't for COVID and wasn't for the fact that I can't ice skate, I would have signed up. And so I'm sad it was canceled. So hopefully next year. And then in regards to lifeguarding, Craig and I have talked many times about my love for the pool and being in there at 5:30 in the morning. And I have a young son, and I am a proud working mom, and my husband works full time too. In the hiring of lifeguards and making plans for the summer, I would appreciate it if there can be evening and weekend like swim lessons and swim family activities that I could take my son to. Eventually, my son will stop listening to me when I teach him swim lessons because that's what children do. So I will need to go to another source, i.e. the lovely Grosse Pointe Park swim schools and swim center. But I can't do that when I'm working full time and he's at daycare. So I just asked the committee and Craig to consider expanding the opportunities for evening and weekend programs. I am a lifeguard myself and a water safety instructor, so I'm willing to work with the commission and Craig to volunteer my time or work to organize the lifeguards. I currently teach swim lessons with the Grosse Pointe Public School System, and this is obviously contingent on COVID safety. I personally don't want a child spitting in my mouth while I'm teaching them how to blow bubbles. So I understand that other teachers would not want that either. So I just asked, once we get to the lifeguard section, we can start maybe planning to expand for more opportunities for working parents. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Matt, I went ahead and unmuted you. If you wouldn't mind stating your name for the record, please.
Yeah, my name's Matt Kale. I'm a fairly new resident to Grosse Pointe Park, and largely I have really loved it here. I'm over on Westchester. I've loved walking down to Patterson Park. I wasn't planning on speaking, so this will be short. I was eager to come and listen to the rules of the dog park get discussed. I've been following, its progression, and I've been curious about how stuff's going to be managed there. I wasn't quite expecting to hear everything I've heard so far today. So I just want to be a voice of support here. I would say I've loved everything about this city so far, except for one of the Facebook pages and the dog park debate. It's been quite baffling to me, quite frankly. But as somebody who's got a first child on the way and a dog, Patterson Park is such an exciting thing. I walk over there. I'm not a golfer, but I bet golfers are really pumped about being able to get practice of their short game in. I don't have a kayak, but kayaks take up a lot of space. They just sit there. I imagine people have a lot of fun going kayaking. And I see a lot of parents with their children. I don't have a child yet. And I think, oh, that's a great way to socialize. And then I walked there. I waited patiently for my dog pass, and I got it when 2021 hit. And so I've gotten to walk my dog down by the water on his leash. And, we stay 6 feet away from everybody outside and everything like that. So I've just been really, really excited. I was excited to hear a discussion about the rules today. I hope we don't turn the clock back on this, because as someone with a first child on the way and a dog, I really want to meet my neighbors once we all get vaccinated. And it would be great to not have to walk up to Jefferson to take the dog and then take the stroller down to Patterson to go to the playground. Like, let's just do a one-stop shop. It's all gated. My dog's not going to jump the gate on anybody. So I've just been a little surprised. I'm happy to be able to speak here today, and I'm excited for hopefully the dog park plan to go through. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your comment. Next, please.
Sion, I went and unmuted you. If you wouldn't mind stating your full name for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Sion Hubbard. I live in Grand Marais. I'd just like to begin by saying we aren't opposed to a dog park in Patterson Park that is factually incorrect. And if Chad or Nick or Dan or anyone was willing to admit this, they would have they would have been able easily, you would have been easily able to verify this. But the thing is, we're mostly opposed to the process. Everyone is I hear this thing about the process of public engagement. The city did a Facebook survey with 180 people voted and saying, yes, we want a dog park here. No one knows who voted. It could be the same people voting over and over. Thanks, Chad. Secondly, the location of the dog park right here, it's anyone with a brain would know it's a bad location. Sorry for the use of that word. It's going to essentially cut off half of the park. It's going to be limited. The only way you can access it now is from a narrow concrete strip beside the reflection pond and a few feet on the Grand Marais side. It's just really bad planning to put a dog park here. And this thing about people using the park as a private park, no one does. It's a public park. Anyone can walk in the park and bring their dogs when if they have a pass or whatever it is, or you can come run, you can come walk. Nobody uses the dog park, the park as a private park. And secondly, the only person that I know, we recently moved here, that used to do that, that man died. That man is dead. That man no longer lives here. And the people that still live here, those people actually helped to build a playscape. And as far as I know, they donated money to help build a pickleball court. So this thing about the residents in Grand Marais don't want anything, it's factually incorrect. And I blame Nick, Denner, and Chad for constantly demonizing the residents every time they step up or oppose any of their opinions on any of their pet projects. This is not how engagement should go. Just because, sure, we want a dog park, all of our neighbors have dogs, but what about best practice? What's best for everyone? My son loves the park. We used to walk half hour every day to go to the park where we came from. We love the park. We love parks in general. So this is not us versus the dog people that wants a dog park. It's just really sad to live in a place where this level of vitriol and hate is constantly spewed and encouraged, by, as far as I'm concerned, by people in charge of the political system in this neighborhood, because they've made no effort to dissuade people from commenting and reacting to each other the way they do. So it's just really sad that this is where it is. It's really sad.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Alex, I went ahead and unmuted you. If you wouldn't mind stating your full name for the record, please.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm Alex Field. I don't know if you can see me or not, but really happy to be here with y'all. I live over on Somerset and moved here as sort of a pandemic refugee, if you will, from Brooklyn in March with my, I'd like to say 3 boys, Julian, who's 4, Hugo, who's 1, and Javier, our long-haired mini dachshund, who's 7. And we came to this neighborhood. Oh, you're going to hear my 4-year-old here too. Okay. So anyway, we moved here because we had family here and we had no childcare in New York and we were fleeing the pandemic. And, you know, I think we came here in large part because of the community here in the park and all the young families here and the amenities of this place. Coming from Brooklyn, like, amenities are huge to us, and thinking about our whole family. And that's, you know, everything from good schools to walkable streets to the park, both of these amazing waterfront parks that we have access to, and just thinking about, you know, all the things we want to be able to do with our family and to be able to explore and get out in the neighborhood. And, you know, a big part of what we would do in Brooklyn is go to dog parks. And it was a great way to meet neighbors. It was a great way to find other like-minded individuals. It was a great way to, like, just understand what was happening in the community and kind of be part of that. And so, you know, when I heard that this, obviously this is my first meeting, this first sort of foray into this conversation, which obviously sounds like it's been going on for a while, I was really excited because it kind of cemented for us and our family that, you know, this is the kind of place that has the kind of amenities like a dog park that would make us stick around. There's a lot of places we could go. I work remotely now. And, you know, I think about the park and the thing like a dog park, the thing like the waterfront, all the things that we have for kids, being able to go out with our dog and our kids and be able to enjoy that together in Patterson Park, a short walk away, is, you know, a real draw for us. So I just would, you know, I know there's a lot of, as I said, conversations been happening, and there's, process fouls, and there's always something that's going to make folks upset about what's been going on. But I guess I would just encourage y'all, as someone coming in from an outside perspective, to think about how things like a dog park help people like me and my family see this as a community where we want to be and where we can see ourselves in. Particularly as, a lot of people like me are looking out of major cities and trying to find a good place to land. So again, just really in favor of getting this thing done. I think they're all over New York. No one complains about them. They're all positive. They're in rich neighborhoods. They're in not rich neighborhoods. And everybody sees them as an asset to the community. So we just come out strongly in favor of getting this done. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Jessica, I went ahead and unmuted you. If you wouldn't mind stating your full name for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Jessica Pelfey. I grew up here in Grosse Pointe Park and recently moved back to Grosse Pointe Park. One of the things that I love about the Grosse Pointe community, the park in particular, is the close-knit nature of it. And so I just want to caution us to be respectful and mindful of those both here and those who have passed. I know it's one person's comment, but it's that person in particular did an incredible amount of work in support of this community, and especially in support of Patterson Park. And so I want to be sure to recognize that, and also remind us that this is a close-knit community and those people have relationships. I think I also just certainly want to, echo sentiments of both folks for and against the dog park. I certainly highly respect and admire many of the residents on Grand Marais, and think they certainly did their due diligence and with the best of intent are truly trying to set up the dog park to be an asset for the park. And I think it's really important that as we discuss the park and the park rules that we remember that. That being said, I also have a dog, as I know many of residents of Grand Marais do as well, and certainly support a collaborative process to identify a site that benefits the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment.
That is all hands raised.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. Could you go ahead and share the agenda now, please? If it's okay with you, I'll go ahead and get started on Windmill Point Park.
Yep.
Yes, take it away, Chad.
Thank you.
Hey, Chad, this is Larry.
Yes, sir.
I was just thinking that since we have a new member tonight who's in the first meeting, we should recognize her and give her an official welcome before going through the entire agenda. What do you think?
Absolutely. That'd be just Bob.
Yes, very good. Sarah, please introduce yourself.
Hi, it's great to be here. My name's Sarah Coates. I've been a resident for about 5 years. I live on Pemberton. I've got 3 younger children, grade school and middle school, and we came to the community because of all the great, the schools, the parks, the homes, the things other people have mentioned, and we've loved it. We've met a lot of people through our activities at the park, and so I'm looking forward to working with all of you. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Windmill Point Park.
Yes.
Contractor scheduling. We are currently setting up dates and times to have gutter replacement done on the inside gatehouse, down at the concession stand bathrooms. We're also working on getting one of the furnace units and AC units at one of the ends of the Tompkins centers, updated and replaced as well, along with some prices have been coming in for a total overhaul of the tennis courts at Windmill Point Park, and the prices have come in significantly higher than I think everybody anticipated that they would. What I was able to find out when I first got here, everybody kept talking about how Terry had redone the courts just before I got there. And they looked nice. They were painted well and things like that. So it didn't really but I didn't think too much about it at the time, and now I've noticed how poorly they've gotten over the last few years. It was actually just a major crack repair and repainting of the top surface of the courts. Once I was able to find out the actual work that was done by the company and how much it cost, it all started to make sense. So that's one that's bigger. I've put in for that to come out as a capital improvement project for this upcoming fiscal year. I'm not sure if it's going to make it in there or not, depending on how much money is needed for capital improvement projects. I'm hopeful and keep my fingers crossed. I've at least recommended that we need to put enough in there to do, again, another major crack repair. And then maybe the following year after that, we could have the courts redone. That's a big one I'd like to do. I've also talked about the possibility of, I know we have pickleball courts that have been quite popular over at Patterson. There is a possibility that we could add 2 of those into one of the tennis courts at Windmill, so, and keep 3 tennis courts and add 2 pickleball courts on one of the current tennis courts that are there. That's nothing set in stone. It was just some options and ideas we were looking over to see if that might help, depending on with how the popularity keeps growing with the pickleball courts over at Patterson.
Chad, would you run through that again? So would it be taking out a tennis court or just adding pickleball? Can you walk through that part again?
Technically removing it, but still having the same surface area there. We would just implement in 2 new pickleball courts in that space and keeping the other 3 tennis courts as is. Again, it's just an idea and a possibility. We're not saying that's something we would do, but that might take away a little bit of the stress with having the play over at Patterson and the constant demand for court time over there. Just something we're looking at, and to keep a little bit more play and popularity down at Windmill. Again, it's just something we're looking at, something I've talked with our tennis instructor about to see if that would affect anything as for tournaments she runs or lessons or anything like that. So it's something we'll look into at a later date, but I just wanted to throw that idea out there to everyone. I know there will be tennis diehards that probably wouldn't want to lose a court, and that's something that we'll look over to see if we just need to keep the 4 there and plan on making some additional courts at Patterson if that seems like a better fit.
Chad, this is Roy. Yeah, I would comment on that. I would say that it would be a better idea to add to the Patterson Park courts than to take away a tennis court. Most of the play on those tennis courts is way below normal because they're in poor condition, have been for a long time. And you risk injury by playing over there because of the cracks and the poor condition of it. So I would be careful about taking a court out. I think you would see more use if they were in better shape. That's all.
Absolutely. The one plus for that too, with the pickleball courts, is that the Windmill courts are lighted. So you could get longer later play for pickleball with something like that, not have to put in new lights over at, or put in lights in general at Patterson Park. So just something to think about that as well. But it's a possibility we consider just keeping all 4 courts as is at Windmill.
Yep, Chad, just a question or comment on that. Do we keep track of court reservations or usage of the tennis courts? I'd like to have some type of analysis or survey before we did made a permanent change there.
That's a wonderful question. And we used to, and my guess would be that was before they started to get into the shape that they're in now. Now we don't, because there's not enough play and things going on down there. That would probably relate to what Roy mentioned, as it's more of a safety hazard than it is anything else. So it's hard to say right now. With talking, to the tennis instructor, she didn't seem that it would be too disruptive, and she's a big tennis fan, but she knows how popular, the game of pickleball has become as well. I'm totally fine with that. There is possibilities that we could maybe eventually add space at Windmill, for those pickleball, or even look at another option of something else. I just wanted to throw that idea out there that it's not too much more work to do as to insert a few more holes and paint the lines differently. So it's something we could look at as an option.
Great, thank you.
Welcome. Moving on to lifeguards. We are currently, I believe by the end of this week or early next week, going to run some ads, searching for our pool supervisor for this season. They will again work with Mary Beth Hathaway in kind of a dual role, partnering together, because I have a feeling, you know, the swimming restrictions are going to be similar to what they were last year. We're also going to meet as directors probably towards the end of this month to discuss, you know, the possibilities of swim team and what open swim and things like that will look like. That's always been a challenge for us. Swim lessons, swim team practice time, swim meets, and open swim for the residents. The pool's open for a lot of hours in the day, but it still seems like it's not enough hours to squeeze everything in. So what we're going to have to figure out is, if we do have a swim season, how can we coordinate the practice times and the meets around, you know, specific sets, swim times for the public. We're not going to be able to eliminate, you know, our evening swim for those who work to be able to come in after there. And a lot of the times that's close to practice or meet time. So we may have to look at a shortened season or something like that. And I've also been trying to figure out ways to offer those swim lessons either in the evenings or on the weekends as well. I think that's something we can do, but swim lessons probably won't be an option until we know that you can safely do those, and probably more so and then a one-on-one setting or something like that. So we will be working on that as well. We're also sending out the returning lifeguard information, so that will go out to all of the lifeguards that we had this last season. Hopefully those will start coming in soon so we can see what we're working with. And we'll also run the advertisement for new lifeguards and things like that. We ran into a little bit of a problem last year because we kind of didn't think we were going to open for the summer. And then last minute notice, we decided we were able to do that. So that made hiring guards at that point in time a bit difficult, because most of them had already jumped on with the other Grosse Points. So I think with us starting now, we're going to be out in front of a lot of other people. That way we're at least set, interviews are conducted, and we're ready to go for when the pool season opens. We just have to figure out how that schedule is going to be. Is it going to be a normal time or back to, you know, structured set times, which I think more than likely will be the case. It was one of the best years we had as for being able to clean the pool on a regular basis, keeping people safe and distance, things like that. We're probably going to look to head something in that direction again.
And what is the minimum age for a lifeguard?
I believe it is 15 for us. And that will be everybody under 18 will also have to make sure that they have the work permit. So that's going out with our letter this year, including everything that they need for, as for the banking, background checks, things like that, what size clothing, suits, things like that they'll need. So we can get all that stuff ordered and again, be ready to go. There won't be anything preventing us from opening up on time or anything like that. Another item was the Tompkins Center storage and projects. With a little bit of time that we've had, we've still been quite busy, you know, not doing the normal things we usually do, but this has also given us a lot of time to go through the minimal amount of storage space that we actually have around the Parks and Recreation Department. It's given us a chance to look through the lofts at each end of the Tompkins Centers, go through some of the back storage rooms, the rental hall chair room, storage room, things like that, and extra space in our office as well. So we've been able to go through some files, look at things like that, go up to with all the activities and programs we go through all the knapsackers, day camp, things like that, and have been able to get rid of some of the old stuff, give some things away, and kind of reorganize and set up differently how we want things to be in there. So it's easily accessible for staff members to get to and be able to use and remember what we have when we come up on each season or program that we're looking to start. We'll move on to the Lavins Activity Center. I failed to mention earlier, I apologize that Mary Beth wasn't going to be able to make it tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and cover that section for her. We just recently increased the limit in the fitness center to 10 individuals. Those times are starting to fill up, so that's a good look. They're still able to keep themselves distanced like they need to, but it's nice to see an increase in the entrance of increased numbers up in the fitness center. The staff has done a great job with that as well. Rock City Boxing has also started off again as well. And that's had a good return. And for what those individuals go through, it's been nice to be able to get them back in there and start getting consistent again with those workouts and with what they're dealing with. The karate program starting up too. The first half of this session, they are actually going to continue online. And then after March 1st, they will return back into the gymnasium. With the number of students that they have, there's plenty of space in there as well. They wanted to wait until after some of the breaks and see how the first month of things have gone. So we thought that was a pretty good idea as well. You gained a few more people that way. You lost a few because, you know, some of them wanted to be in person the whole time and some wanted to stay, you know, virtual the whole time. So it kind of balanced itself out, but we feel good about bringing them back in the beginning of March. And then the last is pickleball, which we plan to start back up on March 1st as well. There'll be some set days for drop-in times. Won't technically fall quite as a drop-in time. They will have to kind of let you know ahead of time how many, so that way we don't have too many individuals showing up to drop it and then we don't have enough court space for them. We're working that one out, but we will have a staff member in there that signs them in and takes the payment, things like that, to keep an eye on how many individuals are down there and actually playing. Along with, we're going to try some smaller time sessions of the pickleball lessons, and the rest of the time will be rental times as well.
Hey, Chad?
Yes, sir.
Oops, sorry, Laurie, I didn't mean to cut you off. Chad, how many pickleball courts are there?
We have 3.
Yeah, now you put 3 on 2 tennis courts, and you're suggesting that you could put 2 on 1 tennis court at Windmill. I think you should reevaluate that.
Absolutely. We put 3 on the 2 at Patterson.
Right.
We had an architect actually do some plans for us for free there because they're a player. They play down there. We could actually fit 6 courts on the Patterson area. We just didn't want to go. I almost thought about going with 4 in the beginning, but we weren't quite sure what the popularity or demand would be. If I would have looked back on it now, I probably would have gone with anywhere from 4 to 6, knowing what we would have had, because we could have had lessons, open play, and a league, you know, at this time, had I known that the demand would have been at this level.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I just want to point that out. I think I think there is room there. Thank you.
Yep.
Chad, how much is it for the drop-in pickleball?
The drop-in is $5 and it's 2-hour time limits.
Okay, and do you?
Is that for the court reservation or per head?
That is per head for the drop-in. The court rental is $20 an hour.
Thank you.
I have a question regarding karate. Wasn't there an outdoor karate program last year? I remember seeing the kids out there in their outfits. Is that going to be planned again this year? Do you know?
Absolutely. They really enjoyed it, actually. So as soon as the weather warms up enough, they're going to take that program back outside again.
Yeah. Okay. It looked like a lot of fun for the kids.
Yeah, they had a great time. We'll go ahead and move on to Marina. Chris, I know you've been a busy man this evening, but if you don't mind touching base a little bit on the Marina, and Larry might have you chime in on a few things as well. There's a couple things from the meeting that we didn't get on the agenda with getting the meeting minutes after.
Sure.
So as far as the Marina is concerned, we had a few Marina subcommittee meetings, and during those meetings, we talked about me getting in touch with some different engineering firms or companies. And I've reached out to the same company that's doing the master plan for the city of Grosse Pointe Park. And they put me in touch with an engineering company called HRC, I believe is what it was. And I have set up a meeting with both companies next week on the 10th to talk about some of the most basic questions or general questions of costs and what they can do and what they can provide as far as the life expectancy or the status of our marina, and then going forward of what we can do and the future project of the marina. So I'm at the very beginning stages of it, but that is something that came from the Marina subcommittee meeting.
Chris, is that to redo the whole marina, or is that just docks, or what is the scope of the analysis that you're looking at?
To be honest, I'm looking at everything as far as it can be. The start off is obviously the basic questions, and start off questions are where we are as far as status of the marina right now. Does it look like that we have another 20 years with our marina, or does it look like something that we need to look at updating in the near future? So it's going to be something where I'm going to look at short-term and long-term. Most of the engineering companies I'm going to be speaking with is going to be as far as long-term, if they don't think that the life expectancy of the marina is very long. If they think it is something that we need to update and change accordingly, then it will be going forward. You know, maybe it's floating docks, maybe it's not. Maybe it's building up a seawall where they deem that'll be low, and the pricing of something like that. So it's going to be to get an idea of how much everything will cost, but also have an itemized budget of seeing how much each project will cost.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
So Chris, it's Stacy. I have a question. Would they also be evaluating how it's being used, and you know, would it be reconfigured in any way? Like, I know we've talked about jet skis and personal watercraft. You know, how would that, you know, how would we encompass any other watercraft that might come in the future? Or is it just kind of the basics of what we have right now?
Right now, it's literally just to set up a meeting just to talk about some of the general things, but those are the questions that I want to ask going forward is, you know, if you are going to redesign our marina to make it more efficient, what are your drawings? What are your thoughts? If we wanted to add jet skis, you know, make it like a state-of-the-art marina, what ideas would you have? And what are the drawings that you could come up with to make this marina the best marina in the area?
I definitely think that that would be important, and especially with the personal watercraft. You know, just even, I don't know, Larry and all the other boaters out there. I mean, I saw so many more personal watercraft out there this summer than I've ever seen on the lake. Just so many. I mean, you see a lot of them on inland lakes, and that's been a constant over time, but not necessarily on Lake St. Clair. So I think we're going to need to consider that. Me personally, we plan on buying one, and I'd like to keep it there. So I think we're going to need to think about that.
Yeah, and that is something I've seen as a growing trend over the last couple of years as being the marina supervisor, is the need of adding jet skis, or the want of adding jet skis, I should say.
Right.
And that is something that I've kind of wanted to do over the last couple of years, but obviously, you know, you have to kind of go with what's going on. And with the high water, it was, you know, not looking at the future, but trying to get the marina ready for what's with the high water levels of building up those piers with the risers. So stuff like adding jet skis are always on my mind, but it had to be put on the back burner until we can get the marina situated or properly handled for that current year. So yes, you are correct. That is definitely a growing trend, or should I say, it's something that I want to do going forward.
And Chris can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the initial plans with these companies will be a general meeting with them to look at what we have and then go over pricing on, this is what it's going to cost you for us to come up with this plan or do this study, and tell you the strength, you know, of what your marina currently is. And can you make some changes to it to get another 20, 30 years out of it? Or do you have to consider within the next 3 to 5 years, putting in a brand new marina or something like that? I think we'll start out with baby steps, find out what those costs are going to be, and then go ahead, pay that money and figure out, here's what we get for a brand new one, and here's the steps we can go through it. Or, you know, you have a strong structure there, you just need to make these changes to it and find out, and then go from there. That's hopefully the plan.
Yeah, that's been the focus of the new subcommittee's work. The first few meetings, as you know, Chad, we've really focused on the financials and trying to clarify the financials to find out, you know, where the money's been going, and understanding the reports that we've been getting from the city. And we're still in the process of clarifying that further, but we certainly had a strong recommendation to include some sort of master plan assessment, which is what Chris just referred to, of the marina to help determine how to proceed with improvements and even just routine maintenance, because we don't want to spend money now that's going to be going down the drain within a year or two just because of obsolescence. And so we're looking at everything. Everything's on the table, you know, jet skis, floating docks, which would have been fantastic with the high water problems that we've experienced. Pier 4 was without electricity for the last, you know, we're going on the third year in a row that they had disrupted electrical service. So that has certainly been at the top of the priority list. Also, I'll mention that upgrade to harbor cameras is being bid out. I believe Chris is on top of that. And we did finalize a mission statement, which should be published on the website somewhere at this point. So
yeah, the mission statement that the Marina Subcommittee came to an agreement with has already been posted on the Marina Subcommittee section of the website. So that is already live. And as far as something that Larry just commented on is I am, and Chad, I should say, is I am at the very beginning of the stages of talking to engineering firms. So Chad is correct in saying that this will be simply asking questions of costs of going forward. You know, I'm not going to ask them to draw plans yet. I want to know how much something like that would cost and kind of just break down each little item before I even, you know, put my foot in the water per se. So I just wanted to make that clear that it's just going to be talking to the company, hearing what they've done, their history, and going forward, how much something like a drawing or analysis of the marina status would cost.
and doing that with somebody who's got engineering experience specific to marinas, so that we can get their expert, you know, advice.
Yes, and I'm glad you said that, because I do want to make a comment that HRC Engineering Corporation, they were the one that built Grosse Pointe Farms. They sent me a little bit of a one-page flyer of what they did for the farms when they rebuilt their marina. So that is a very good start, obviously, with our neighbors and what they did with their marina.
Well, you know, I wonder, Larry, if you're considering as a subcommittee visiting the farms to specifically to take a look. I mean, Chris, maybe you've been there, maybe you haven't, but it would be interesting to see how they've reconfigured. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they kind of sent me over a couple of pictures that they've done, and obviously during the meeting I can bring something like that up next week, is kind of a more detailed if they have more pictures or, you know, what they've changed to make that more efficient.
Yeah, it might also be helpful to visit the Shores Marina, because they're the only one of the Grosse Pointe marinas that have floating docks.
Right.
Yeah, I think that I don't think it's going to make it in this coming fiscal year for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. But I don't think that should hold us up from starting with these engineering firms and things like that. Let's start right now, see what we need to do and find out what we need to spend to get a plan in place so we're ready when that time comes.
Yep.
Moving forward to the marina waitlist turnover. Obviously, I'm in the process of turning over wells for the 2021 season. During the marina subcommittee, I made a comment that we were at about 350. And I can tell you that as of today, or as in tomorrow, our list will already be dropped to about 280. So that number's already dropped significantly with a lot of turnover, some people accepting, but a lot of people not ready yet to buy a boat or a boat well. So the waitlist turnover, even though it is long, it is going down pretty quick over the last couple of years. Water levels. So everything that I've seen from the Corps of Engineers says the water levels are going to be down this year, which is great news. Something that it will be touched on as far as electrical, but we have a real chance of Pier 4 maybe not losing power or being, if we have to turn off power, it may be something where we are down a month at our highest level or 2 months, but I'm hoping that we don't have to turn off power right now. Looking at the numbers that I have as far as water levels. Obviously, things change from now to March. and things change even in April, depends on how much water we get amongst other things. So going forward, it's going to be kind of a wait and see.
I hope that if we do turn off electrical and it's not allowed, that the people who are doing it anyway get some sort of notice, because we had somebody on Pier 4 that was constantly using power with his electrical cord running through the water. And it was very disheartening to see.
Yeah, and I do want to make it clear that I did talk to that individual multiple times about not doing it, and I think going forward, I'm hoping that that won't be an issue this year.
Good, thanks.
Electrical in the marina. We've already kind of touched on it, Pier 4 being the obvious issue in our marina for the last couple of years because it's the lowest pier. I do have another company hopefully coming out this week, a contractor who he has an electrician. He's in the marina. He's a marina member, but he has an electrician who works for him. He's going to look at Pier 4, look at what we have, and kind of give us an idea of what his opinion on it is, cost, what we can do, if there's anything we can do. So I'll have another, hopefully, quote in regards to Pier 4 and updating electrical. Obviously, that is in addition to a quote that I've given the Marina Subcommittee for pricing that I got back in 2019. And with the comment that I had 2 other companies come out and they were not interested in doing the work in our marina as far as electrical upgrades. Thinking that the status of our marina, all the work that they would put in the amount of money that it would cost to update Pier 4 wouldn't be worth it in the end when we have to rip everything out and update it again. Ripping out the conduit is the most expensive part. So it wouldn't be cost effective is what they told me going forward. So it didn't make sense to them and they were not interested in bidding on the job. That's it.
Perfect. All right, thank you, Chris. Could you go ahead and share, we'll move on to Patterson Park and share the dog park rules for me, please. All right, what I'd like to do here is just briefly go over some of the rules this evening. Most of you have sent some recommendations or some editing to take place with that. So I'm going to go over a few of those and just touch base on some of the stuff. What I'd really like to do is set up a day in March that we could have a special meeting just to finalize, go through everything line by line, make sure that's what we're happy with, and then finalize that so that can go ahead and go on the website and be in place for when things kick off. The first one is in the second bullet point, we need to make dogs plural instead of just dog. So I think we should change that potentially from the dog must be currently licensed to dogs must be currently licensed. That's something we can talk about again further or discuss it right now if we'd like to. Another one is on the 5th line. Instead of being existing, that should be exiting. This says the, let's see here. Just had it marked up, I'm sorry.
Hey, Chad, this is Roy.
Yes, sir.
In the dogs must be currently licensed for the city of Grosse Pointe Park. Really, the S should be in parentheses because you could have a dog or you could have multiple dogs. That's all that's meant. Doesn't have
okay.
to be. Okay.
Got it. Yep, perfect.
Chad, in that same line, we refer to the off-leash dog park area 3 times in the first bullet point, but then elsewhere it's just the dog park area. Perhaps the first time we use it, we can just define dog park with capital letters, and then we don't have to describe it differently each time.
Yeah.
Perfect. Another one was, it was in that first bullet point. It was on the very last line there where I'd mentioned dog might cause while entering, using, or exiting instead of existing. the off-leash dog park. So that's something we will change. Another one was in the 4th bullet point, I believe. Grosse Pointe Park.
Before you leave the first bullet point, may cause instead of my cause.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you. And then the fourth bullet point, the dogs must wear identification tags while in the park and wear their Grosse Pointe Park dog license metal while in the park, and it should be metal with a D. The next one that Larry, you had mentioned was in the 8th bullet point, and that was talking about the no strollers, bicycles, or chairs inside. And you thought that prohibiting some of those chairs might seem questionable. I don't know how everybody feels about that. Part of our plan is we'll have
seating is going to be in, the ultimate plan. I doubt there's going to be a whole lot of seating in there. If somebody wanted to bring a folding chair, to me, that didn't seem like it would be too disruptive or have a negative impact.
Unless it was,
Yeah,
well, go ahead.
I would agree. This is James. I don't see any issues with a chair. I don't think you're really going to see many people bringing chairs to the dog park. Just in my past experiences of using dog parks, but some people might want to, they might have issues where they need to sit and they prefer to sit in their own chair. I mean, we're using this at their own risk. I would say if it becomes a problem, we always have you've reserved the right at the end to update your rules.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing we wanted to make sure we will have. You've probably seen a lot of it. It's that recycled plastic material around. It's been for a lot of the memorial benches around the parks. I can promise you to not make it sound like we haven't planned or prepared for this. There will be plenty of seating in there, but I have a strong feeling that a lot of people will want to put memorial benches in there as well. Once that park is in place, they'll probably ask the ways that they can purchase that memorial bench to add them in there. I'm not saying it's a for sure thing, but I'm quite confident with the number I get of memorial benches that they'll want to put some in there for sure.
Yeah, likely.
The final bullet point was violation of the off-leash dog park rules will subject user. We need to add will in there.
You turn the page on this, so there. Thank you. Thank you.
And Chad, are we using will? Are we eliminating may and making the whole thing mandatory? Or are we just adding will to the first part of removal?
Do we kind of want to have that up for discussion right now? That was just something that was recommended, so I wanted to bring that up if we kind of want to have a discussion on that, or what we think the best wording for that might be right now. That was just one thing that was sent to me right now.
I don't think you want to go to the extent of making it mandatory that they're going to lose their park privileges. I think there should be a certain amount of leeway there to take a look at the circumstances involved to decide whether that going to that extent is really justified.
I would like, though, to make their rescission of their dog park privileges mandatory. If you go to permissive, it will never have enforcement. So I agree with Larry, retaining the right to make your park pass subject to it. But then I would support saying it will result in, and I don't know how we define dog park privileges, and maybe we need to do that above, but making that mandatory.
I would agree with that.
I think I would disagree. I think we should leave ourselves some leeway. I mean, which of these rules are we going to say takes away somebody's right to use the dog park without any thought, but in a reflexive way? Somebody brings dog kibbles in their pocket and somebody catches them, then they can't use the dog park anymore. I mean, some of these are important violations and some of them are pretty minor, bordering on trivial. And I think we need some latitude. Is it the first offense? Is it a serious offense? I don't think we should box ourselves in.
I think if you leave it written as it is, violation of the rules subject the user, and you could take out Well, okay, first of all, the first part says immediate removal from the area. So if you show up and you violate the rules, you have to leave that day, right? That's the first thing. And then the second part, so I think there's, kicking them out for the day, revoking their dog park privileges, and revoking their park pass privileges. Those would be the three sort of steps for violations, correct?
I believe we have the power too with those key fobs. We could deactivate that for a given time as well. Again, it may not be for the year, but we could say 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, something like that, depending on the severity of it, as a strike two or something like that. And then allowing them, we have some options, I believe. It doesn't just deactivate at the end of the year and then you have to purchase a new one. That's something we can look at.
I think that for violations, just the way the lifeguards can kick people out of the pool, the gate guard should have the ability to kick somebody out of the dog park for the day. You have to leave.
Well, that's why I suggested that it read, will subject user to immediate removal from the off-leash dog park area in Patterson.
Yeah.
Well, at least from the dog park area. I don't know if you're going to remove them from the entire park or not, but the second level of penalty that we've been talking about would be the loss of the permit to take your dog into the dog park. Maybe we should add that as something that could be done, but is not absolutely, required. It does leave some of that leeway that Mike was.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
On an enforcement level, the gate guard who, the person on site has to have that ability to say you're denied entry or you're ejected. The other things we're talking about, I think, are on an administrative level. I mean, if we have a repeat offender, that's not going to be up to the guard of the day to make that decision. It's going to be up to Chad and probably city administration to make those kinds of calls.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
so
don't know.
I would urge that we set out whatever that is, because revocation of dog park privileges is not an identified consequence. And I'd suggest that we have to do some significant training with our gate guards. So 3 weeks ago, there was an unleashed dog at the skating rink. And the gate guard said, I'm sure it's fine, people can walk their dogs. And then it took multiple efforts to get him to go over there. And, I've got small children. I talked to Chad about it. I'm sure he's on it and he took care of it that time. But I have significant concerns that the gate guards are going to want to go over, address someone, and no one's ever happy about being called out. So specifying what the waterfall is, and it shouldn't be the gate guard determining, you lose this or that. It's you're removed for the day, and then second offense, whether it's Chad, whatever it is, let's specify what it is, because I do have serious concerns about that.
I'd like to add too, that there's a way that we could state that it's not necessarily just going to be a park ranger or gate guard that's on duty. We have maintenance supervisors, other staff that are supervisors. I think I should be able to open that up to staff, because there's going to be a lot of maintenance supervisors in that area working and doing things, that they're going to see certain things. So I would like to be able to have them have that power as well, just like a gate guard, to immediately see something and be able to remove them from that park.
I would think as part of the application process, we want the people applying for the key fob to acknowledge the authority of those designated people to eject them, or however we want to phrase it, but that they agree to follow that authority. If they're asked to leave, they leave. If they fight that, then that's another issue that will have to be dealt with.
So it sounds like there's a consensus to add that second level of penalty for violations into this bullet point, so that you start with the immediate removal from the dog park, but it may also result in revocation of dog park privileges and/or park pass privileges.
Yeah, your first offense could be as bad as losing the pass entirely. So there could be a second level, but even on your first offense, it could be severe enough.
Perhaps we should just change this wording, Larry, to make it that may subject users park pass privileges. Maybe it should be dog park pass privileges. That's really all we want to say. If somebody's banned from the pool, are they banned from all parks? If they're banned from the dog park, are they banned from all parks? Maybe that's not where we need to go. What you're saying is the first offense, any of the administration or staff of the city can ban them for that day. The subsequent offenses, their dog park pass privileges may be revoked. We don't need to get into if we're going to revoke all their passes, do we? Is that really related? That's to the offense at hand?
Just as it would be for any other violation, I think that's an extreme remedy, and I can't imagine it would be used, but just as, I don't know, if I were setting fire to picnic tables or something, Chad could ban me. I think we should retain it as an option, but I think Mike's point's well taken that it would seem to be one that I can't imagine a scenario where we'd use it, but I'd hate to foreclose us from it.
Right.
I would add, Chad, I've heard a couple times removal for the day, and I think it's important that we add that. So the last thing we want is someone all worked up walking out the gate and back in the other gate, and it's just, I think for the day is a reasonable cooling off period.
Absolutely, and that's usually what we do now is, depending on, again, the severity of what they've done, they're immediately, removed from the park, and either, depending on what it is, again, their park pass is deactivated, the name is out at the gatehouse, things like that. So they know they're notified and contacted when they can return to the park again, whether it's the day, it's 2 weeks, it depends on what they're doing, from, like you said, burning picnic tables to jumping off the seawall, things like that. Those are all what we determine, and usually I'm the one that makes that decision on how long that is. So I think it would be the same thing. And once they're kicked out of the dog park, they have a dog with them, so they're going to be removed from the park anyways, because they're not going to be allowed to have it outside that area. I think with this dog park designated area, that will help significantly with the areas that the gate guards don't see, or that you have some concerns about being in areas they shouldn't be and nobody doing anything. It's absolutely unacceptable to have to be encouraged or asked multiple times. That's not going to fly, and that won't be allowed. I know sometimes with either trying to get their pass or get a key fob, things like that, people will flat out tell the gate staff no, that they won't give it to them. So the next step is to call public safety. Usually at that point, some gate guards have hesitated to do that and let them go and try to find out who it is, or they do call public safety, and usually those people, change their attitude quite quickly. So they don't want to get to a situation like that.
So Chad, I have some, can I add an extra point or two here?
Sure.
Okay. I have some minor points that I'll send you, but I would just like to say kind of an overarching comment that what you've got here clearly is very consistent with what the rules that other parks have. The American Kennel Club rules are reflected in this, the farms, Ann Arbor's, St. Clair Shores. This kind of covers it all. Actually, your rules are a little more explicit than the rules that some of these places have. It's in the same vein and maybe a little more stringent, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's good. I would just raise a couple of extra points. One is in the line where you have no people food or dog food is allowed. I think we should explicitly state no alcohol, no cigarettes, and no glass containers. I think those are all no-nos in a dog park.
No alcohol, glass containers.
And no smoking.
No smoking, yep.
I mean, maybe that's a no-brainer, but I mean, why leave it?
I don't think it would hurt. We should at least consider putting that in there, because if you didn't tell them and you don't tell them, then they're going to say, no one ever told me I couldn't do that. So,
right.
And Chad, is that a rule for the park as a whole? Because maybe we can say, you're subject to the rules of the park, including and that way, if we make other changes going forward, whatever it is, that they're covered.
no glass containers is a part of that, but not the alcohol. So I think we'll have to put a designated rule for that.
Fair enough.
The second major point I would raise, I don't know if I don't think we have to solve some of these problems tonight because we're going to get back together on this, but I think a broader issue is children. And if you're going to allow small children in here, all we say is that they have to be supervised by an adult, and that's good. And I'm sure some of the people that are on the call that have small children would probably like to take their kids, but this is something that we have to think about. Do you want toddlers in there? You know, kids get knocked over. Maybe they don't know not to pull dog's hair or take a toy out of a dog's mouth. And it's probably not a bad idea to have a minimal age. At least
Notice that the Grosse Pointe Farms had a minimum age of 5 years of age.
yes, that's pretty typical. Less than 5 not being allowed is kind of standard for those that specify. Some don't specify. So you could consider that.
Yeah, I want to look through my notes again. I believed early on we discussed either 5 or 6 as the minimum age, because that was something we're considering with the height of a child usually at that age. And some of the attacks of their faces being at the height of the dog's mouth, things like that. So to have them make sure they're a little bit taller, things like that. But I do remember 5 or 6 was what we were thinking. So I'll put that in the notes right now.
There's already a rule about carrying guns in the park, isn't there?
I believe that is something that with City Hall has been. I don't believe that they are allowed in the space at any of those locations, I think.
Well, maybe you should check on that with with all that's going on in the news these days and seeing people carrying guns into the state capitol building. That worries me a little bit. I think we should prohibit firearms, you know, in our parks for certain.
I'm fairly positive they're not. Laura, you might be able to.
I think we're wading into some constitutional law questions here. It's not such an easy thing to do.
I'm going to touch base with Jake and Nick
Yeah.
on that one. We haven't had any issues again, but not to say that's something we shouldn't explore. Okay, perfect. Anybody else have anything they'd like to touch on right now regarding those?
Yeah, I've got something I'd like to bring up. This is James Kinnick. The point for anyone under 18 years old must be accompanied by adults. I just think that's kind of old. I mean, if we've got 15-year-olds who can watch a pool to keep kids safe, you know, take their dog for a walk and socialize them. I mean, I don't know. I just want to put that up for debate. I don't know, 16 and up, 18 just kind of seems like, I mean, if you have a responsible high schooler, taking them to a dog, I mean, it's just something that I used to do growing up, you know, taking the dog for a walk and socializing them in the park was something that I did as a teenager. And to not have that option with having responsible teenagers might, I don't know, kind of takes away from being a park and some freedom and responsibility of being a dog owner.
I agree with that, James. I believe at the age of 16, you can drive a car on a learner's permit. So if we're, you know, arming kids with cars, I would think that they could keep an eye on their dogs at age 16.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Chad, perhaps you should add that to your list for the city attorney, since we're saying that use constitutes a waiver and acceptance of the risk. I would like to, that might be the issue as opposed to whether practically the lower age makes sense, but defer to the city attorney.
Yeah, see if we need a waiver.
I would also add that Grosse Pointe Farms has an 18, the same qualification. Anyone under 18, that they have it posted right on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would favor that, keeping it that, because I think it protects everyone. You know, I mean, I think the parents, a lot of the parents are going to make the decision that you can take the dog for a walk, but you can't take the dog to the dog park because it's my insurance policy. I don't know.
So parental consent or waiver type of form for anyone under the age of 18. with the minimum age being somewhere 15 or 16. Looking into that, that's what I'll go to Jake about that.
Sounds good.
And then Chad, the farms rules had the dawn to dusk, but no earlier than 8 a.m., no later than 9 p.m. Since during the summer, dusk stretches nearly to 10 o'clock, I'd also support having some cutoff at the end of the evening.
Absolutely, I agree. I think that's kind of the plan. We might look something of not quite opening up. Again, we can at the next meeting, I think, kind of touch that up in there with it, the hours of operation. It may be an hour earlier in parts of the season or something like that. Not going right at dusk, because then you're talking about trying to get everybody out there, the amount of time that you're going to spend potentially trying to get them out. So if you know it's done before, through the fall and winter months, it's not going to be quite a problem because it's dark so much earlier that the park for that time of the year is going to close, probably before most dinners. So.
Chad, one other issue relates to the age at which a puppy is allowed to be to access the park. I mean, you've set the time it's a reasonable time, but it's a little bit higher than a lot of dog parks. I've talked to some of the local vets about this. I mean, the main concern is that they've had their shots, which you covered in another bullet point. And dogs don't typically get the whole series of their shots till they're about 4 months. So by definition, you're not going to have a dog in there that's less than 4 months. Question is whether you want to make it 6 months. I think it's really, why I say flexibility is because if you've got a 4-month-old, I don't know, Pekingese that weighs 5 pounds, that dog's probably not ready for a dog park. If you have a 4-month-old Great Dane that's 65 pounds, that dog is ready for a dog park. And so it's a balance of, if you take them in too early when they're too small and fearful, that might not be healthy in the long run for the dog. If you don't take them soon enough, that's not good for dogs in terms of socialization down the line.
Might add that Grosse Pointe Farms has 4 months as well. Grosse Pointe Farms quotes 4 months.
So that's kind of where we're wrestling with. So, they obviously have to have their shots, and that sets a lower end. After that, 6 months is not unreasonable. 4 months is maybe a little more standard. So you could maybe look into that and see what you think, or state a range, or.
Yeah, I agree. I say if your dog has her shots, I mean, if your dog has its shots, it's up to your discretion if you want to bring him in or not.
Right, common sense will dictate at that point. Should dictate.
Should we state something along the lines of that, or just to think about that 4 months along with, I guess we say it earlier about having the shots. So I was gonna say, a minimum age of 4, but must have all shots at that time.
And we don't issue tags unless it has all of its shots.
Exactly.
So that part's covered. Just a question of the age then, whether to lower it to 4 months or not.
So do we even need to state an age then? If the dog needs its tags to enter the park, it doesn't really matter how old it is. It's going to get its shots by 4 months typically, right?
Right, typically.
So it's got all its shots, it gets its tag, it gets access to the dog park.
Well,
At
it
the owner's
does give it a little extra emphasis, so people are probably going to be more respectful of the rule.
Yeah. You could put it as part of the listing of the shots. You could say, in any case, dogs must be a minimum of 4 months old before accessing the park. I mean, there's no harm in saying that. That's probably the lower end anyway.
Yeah.
Guys, we're getting into the weeds on this. We're getting into the weeds on this.
Well, that's what we're going to do.
One other
We're
question.
going to do that in March. Thought that was going to be March.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It will be the in-depth and go line by line, add and remove. That's what we're gonna do. I think we had one more comment, and then maybe we'll try and set, what I'd like to do is put 3 or 4 days out there, see what other meetings are taking place throughout that time, and pick a day that works best. If we can at least throw a few out, and then I can email them to you guys and see what works best for the group as a whole.
Okay, my one other question relates to the noise concerns. In the past, we talked about the possibility of acquiring one of those dog barking stop devices. Are we going to kind of gauge whether that's needed or not? before we invest in that? Or is that something we're going to invest in right off the bat? Because obviously, I understand those devices are quite effective, and people concerned about noise, if the dogs don't bark, there's no noise. So I'm just wondering if we're going to invest right off the bat or find out if it's really an issue or not. Something to think about.
Yeah, I think we cover
Something
that a
to
little
do
bit.
in March.
Yep, that works.
Okay.
I will make note of it though.
Yeah. I actually did some research on those devices, and they're not that expensive, and they work in the range of the size of the proposed dog park. I've forgotten what it was, several hundred feet. So
We might be able to use Bob's skill set for the placement of those, I would think.
he's more into music than into dog barking devices.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Larry.
Chris, the tentative date for the Marina Subcommittee, that was going to be on a Wednesday as well, correct?
That's correct. It was going to be March 10th.
March 10th?
Yeah.
Do we want to consider looking at, I'm going to say probably March 24th, March 31st? We could consider the 3rd. Or we could look at a different day other than a Wednesday.
I thought you were going to send them out to us, let us look at our calendars.
Yeah, I can do that. I just wanted to throw them out there now as possibilities in case anybody knew right off the bat something wouldn't work well. I know, I believe the 17th is St. Patrick's Day, and obviously the 24th is the Marina Subcommittee. So either before or after at a different time, but that might be a long night for Larry, Bob, Chris, and myself and Laurie. So we may not want to do that in the same night.
It was my understanding the Marina Subcommittee was the 10th.
The 10th, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the 10th.
There's
We
nothing
don't want
on,
to consider the 10th or the 17th.
yeah, there's nothing on the city calendar for the 24th.
Perfect. That's going to probably be one of the first ones I'll push, but I'm going to give that list out and just double check again to make sure there's nothing that's going to come up that's not on there yet. And then I'll send those out hopefully tomorrow to you guys.
Great.
Sounds good.
Perfect. All right, Chris, we'll go ahead and move on to the disc golf course. If you could bring up that map for me, please. Thank you. I've been working with a resident of Grosse Pointe Park. They actually happen to live on Grand Marais, so they're quite close to the park and frequent there quite often as well. They're a big fan and play quite a bit of disc golf. And they came and approached me. We had talked about it before of just putting in some areas, some practice holes, things like that. We didn't quite consider a full-on course with just certain things that go on throughout the park, if we could even really do that. He actually brought in a company that's built 4 or 5 courses, I believe, to look the grounds over with him. And he submitted this. He actually submitted a video as well that shows him go through each hole. And we've talked, and we had a meeting already and discussed kind of the layout and what we were thinking. And if you kind of follow my mouse, hole 1 would start right over near the Grand Marais side. And that would be hole 1. That would then take you up to hole 2. That's right there in the middle of that wide open area up towards Essex. And you would finish up with the hole at the end towards the fence line there. And then immediately walking up and starting hole 3 closer to that fence line of Essex and finishing out about again in that middle open area of the park. You then would walk over near towards the exit of the park near the gatehouse there, and you would make your way back down hole 4 towards the maintenance garage and that sidewalk area that leads you up to the pond and ice rink, still with plenty of distance. Most of these, the great thing about this course so far is that it doesn't infringe or intrude on anything that already goes on in any areas, which is a really nice thing because you can throw it in just kind of like the exercise course. And it's something extra for people to do and doesn't take away from anything else that's going on. You then cross over to the Bedford side and you hit hole 5, walk around the hill there where the lift station is. And your biggest hole on the course would be number 6. And that would stretch all the way down near the outlet there and the boardwalk area of the park. You then would walk over to hole 7, kind of closer to where the boardwalk entrance and things are right there. Follow up to your final spot of the hole, right near where the bocce ball court is. They had proposed making hole 8, not quite in a super busy area of the main picnic area. The line that he has isn't quite how you would play it. You would really follow a little bit closer towards the gazebo and then wrap around and finish up. You wouldn't go straight through that tree area or anything like that. I told him my biggest concern with that area is we do have a lot of weddings and pictures and things that take place at the gazebo, and you could put up a sign, things like that would say no play during, weddings or special events, things like that. But we all know some people will follow that, some people won't follow that. So I asked if we could look at an option that goes back on the other side near the sledding hill, closer to where the playscape and swing area. So that's where you see that lighter gray line, or it might be even white, and then kicks over again. That's where we would probably consider moving hole 8 if we thought the original placement would be a big issue. And I think we might be better off. And he did go out and measure that area, and it actually has a really nice finish to the hole. That would be a great way to switch it. The only thing we might have to consider is a small sign or something like that telling you where to basically cross through the backside of the warming hut there, not the warming hut, the bathrooms, the restrooms, and the splash pad to make your way over to hole 9 to finish up closer to the parking lot in between the kayak racks there. And that would finish up the entire course, almost using all around the perimeter of the park itself. There's a lot of things we could do to keep the cost for the city very minimal, such as sponsorships, things like that, with interested people. If they want to sponsor a whole, things like that, local businesses, that's a great way, rather than just being on a flyer one time or a banner, things like that. You would be the sponsor of a whole, so they would see you either every year or 3 years, 5 years, something like that, covering the cost. We've put some of those numbers together. They're not overly expensive, really, when you look at what it is around the holes and things like that, is mulch, things of that nature. You would put down slabs to cut cost. When you actually go to make your first throw, you're on a concrete slab. We had discussed putting some type of a turf material on there, but I think over time that would fade and you would need to be a level surface. My thoughts were you could either paint or have that cement mixed with a color, where we could go with a natural green, something like that, where you almost wouldn't even notice. So again, it wouldn't cause an issue. And with the hole number placed there, our older staff are usually who mows the park anyways. So they're not gonna run into that or take the mower into that area, things like that. Again, early stages, really beginning of it, but I thought it was a great idea and another activity we could offer here, along with getting the local schools involved, lessons for younger kids. This is a great way for the whole family to go out if they're not really into it, but one of the sons or daughters, something like that, or an older brother or something. It's a good way to get them out together, things like that. Start a league, bring in some big tournaments. We could bring in, big thinking, professional tournaments or things like that, just to promote or show our thing. Just have a special and people could be down there and watch it and watch some professionals play. I mean, the sky's the limit with the opportunities that we could do, and even host some tournaments, things like that on a lower level, but a state of Michigan type of thing to really show off one of our gems. I'm not pushing to have anybody and everybody, but it would be nice, just like they do with some of the golf courses around here and things, bring in some other people, because this would be, I think, a really popular course for people to be able to see. And who knows, a disc golf course might even, be enough to get them to move here. So I look at things like that. If anybody wants to weigh in on it, I know I've kind of rambled on about it. Go ahead, Laurie.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, what that the longest hole, hole 6, is that a par 5? What is it?
It's a par 4. I want to say it's 600. Gosh, I forget exactly what it is. I'll get those numbers and I'll send them out.
Okay.
I forgot the distances exactly what they were, but it was a pretty impressive length. I thought for sure. I haven't played enough and I haven't played in a long time. I thought it would be closer to like a par 5 or something like that, but yeah, it's a par 4.
Okay.
But it's an impressive distance for that. So it would be, that's where I originally wanted to put, if we had one in the park, something there, because you could do everything with your drive and your approach and your putter, things like that, that you could really go out there and be able to use all your discs, you know, and just one thing. And again, it was a low cost for us, but if we can put all of this in, it would be wonderful.
Chad, is this something we've had any interest in before? Or I know we have one individual who's obviously very, very excited if he did this level of work. But is this something we've ever heard requests for in the past?
I have had some, and we've talked about it. I've talked with some other residents about it, and they thought it would be great. We had considered, you know, like a temporary one where they would set it up for days and things like that. We just never really went through with it, and it was something I had talked about with the previous city manager as well. Again, placing some holes throughout the park, but never going on this full scale. But I think it would be one of those things that really could appeal to all ages, and might have that there. I don't think it would be something, if it didn't cost the city that much and it's not a huge expense to maintain it, I think the interest would grow even more once you had it. I don't think you fully know. We can go and do some more research, maybe do some surveys, things like that, and see what we'd like. But it's not something that's going to hurt us to have it, and it's not going to be a huge expense, especially if we go about it the right way.
And that was going to be the next question. I'm not sure that I heard a number. Do we have a number on this yet, or just?
Not a specific number. I'm working on contacting a few other courses to see on getting the prices for the concrete slab areas. Again, we talked in some areas like that hole 6. You're probably going to need something along the lines of like a 4x8 slab in order to do that drive, where we can probably down it to a 3x5 or something like that on some of the shorter holes. So the prices will change there. As for all of the goals and nets, things like that, I think we were looking right around, I think it was $2,500 to $3,000, something like that for all 9 of them. And they have a 25-year warranty on them. And then underneath each one of those would be just replacing mulch and things as needed. So again, we have an unlimited amount. If you've ever been in the overflow parking lot at Mill Point Park, we're not in any shortage of that. And the big thing would be a couple of benches throughout that course for anybody, you know, needing breaks, things like that. Trash cans we already have. And again, if we did little placards or signs at each hole to kind of tell you how the hole goes, if it wraps around or anything like that, more than likely that's where we put the sponsor, or the sponsor on the bench, something like that, that could either be removable after 3 years or a year, something like that, and make it to be a pretty good cost. And they would almost pay for that hole for us. So it essentially wouldn't cost us anything.
Got it.
And not with being something that's too big, not a huge sign or banners or things like that, but something that people can clearly see and might go be more tempting. That's sometimes what I run into with some of our special events or after 6s. There's just not enough things of 10 to 15 banners and some flyers and things like that. They want something where they're going to be there for a little while. So this is a good way for somebody who's a realtor or something like that to put their name out there and be out there for a while.
Chad, it's Roy. In a public park like this, in a temporary situation, I could see you getting sponsors to cover something, but in terms of a permanent installation, I would not want to see sponsor names anywhere. I wouldn't like that at all. I think it's clutter, visual, and just introduces, it's an interruption. You know, you're playing a game, you're in a park, and you're looking at ads. There'd have to be some very stringent standards for what that sign would be, whether it's a realtor or a gas station owner or, you know, a restaurant owner, it doesn't matter, you know, family and friends of. Would not like that at all. Just my point.
Yeah. This is Laurie. I don't disagree with that, but what if we had something that was more along the lines of the plaques that we have on benches? Could there be some permanent type marker?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of options when it comes to what we want to see or what we want to allow on there. You know, I'm not looking to put something that you know, you might see at a bus stop that covers the whole backside of the park bench that you're waiting there. It's more something that would be located right there where the course layout is on that hole or something like that. It would be smaller, minimal. You're going to have to look at that spot anyway, so you'd see it. But from other areas of the park or passing by, you're not going to notice it and be like, oh, great, it's that company or something like that. You know, I don't want to do something like that where we start to flood the park with signs and banners and advertising, things like that. But if it's done in the right way, it also helps again with cutting costs, and people around here are really good about donating or sponsoring or things like that. So that's a good way to take advantage of that and have it help out. It's another one of those projects, again, if it goes on us as something that I request or something like that, I don't see it being a project that I'm worried about. Will I have issues with my budget, you know, at the end of the year and the long run of the long haul of things? If we were to put it in, it's the cost would be very minimal for things that could potentially go wrong with it, or maintenance or things like that.
I would suggest that maybe this is more appropriate for a Grosse Pointe Park Foundation project, not a commercial enterprise sponsored. So that's just my point of view on it.
Sure, it's something I wanted to bring up now. I want to do some more work, not only with this resident, but some others. Again, maybe we put some feelers out there to see the overall census or interest level of it, and find out what it could cost us, and go from there. If it's something we go against it, and my guess would be it was something we would vote on and send to city council, and it would go up through those ranks as well. So I figured we'd start out here. I wanted to introduce it.
Yeah, let me ask you this, isn't that whole number, what is it, number one? Isn't that right next to the dog park?
It's not right next, but it is closer.
Sure it is.
So
Yeah, it is. Sure it is.
yeah, the dog park would stop about right in that area there.
Yeah, no, okay.
So when you would be throwing from there, more than likely with the way the fencing will be, you probably wouldn't even see into there. And when you got over to this area, it's not going to be a huge distraction or cause an issue, or be throwing into the dog park or anything like that. If that's a concern, it wouldn't be designed to go over the top or anything like that. We've looked that area over. It's not close to where you could have a bad throw and lead it into the dog park.
That's not really the point, I think. The point is if you have a professional tournament and 20 or 30 or 40 people standing around the tee on site one, I don't think the Grand Marais people are going to be very happy with the sound generated.
Yeah.
I think you have to move that, just slide that up a little bit somehow. There's plenty of room to accommodate moving it away a little bit more.
Sure. Yep. And you might even be able to take it where we move up a little bit more, and wrap it around where you finish closer to 2, kind of like how 2 and 3 go. You could finish around there and then instantly walk over shortly to, so wrap it around this way, finish up somewhere right in there, and then you would walk up to 2 and go back that way, 3 back that way. And again, you wouldn't be taking away from this open space so much out there other than the small tee off area right there. And this is, again, as somebody I mentioned that's in that Grand Marais area. So I felt if they were overly concerned, they probably would not put that as a good starting point because they know the neighbors there and things like that. I don't think they would want to infringe on something like that of the privacy of their neighbors and things like that. So
I wouldn't assume that. But
Yeah.
Can you tell us who this individual is?
What's that?
Can you tell us who this is? I mean, you refer to them, but you're not mentioning any names.
Yeah, I have no problem doing that. I'm sure he doesn't mind either. It's Matt Howe. He was on the meeting earlier.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
If they're interested in having the dog park be quiet, then they're interested in not having a tee any closer than it has to be. I think it's these are all minutia. You're going to adjust this. The same with the long hole. You're probably going to pull it back a little more from the water unless you want people jumping over the seawall going to get their Frisbees. But
yeah,
those all details. I mean, it's an interesting idea. And to your point, you really don't know if there's a demand because when it's there, you find out if it's a demand. I'm sure that's your experience all the time. And a lot of people use these in a lot of other parks. And your point is correct. They are multi-generational. This is something where kids of a certain age know, and they'll drag their younger sibs or kids or parents. I've been dragged out several times to these in different cities. And so it can be a good thing for bringing families together.
Chad, as you look at this, and I don't know the answer, I think of disc golf and I think 25 years ago, the metal chains hanging from a metal ring. I don't know if they have targets that don't look like galvanized chain hanging, but that I think would be of interest too. What if this is going to be a permanent installation? I don't know what modern disc golf targets look like, but just something to consider if there's options on how they might appear. I think people would be interested in that too, especially as we're close to the reflecting pond there.
Yeah, I think we definitely take consideration of the appearance of them. That's something I'll look at. I'll work some more things up as we see if it gains any interest or not, and really start to get detail with you, show you the distances from other areas and where the starting things would be and how far, like Mike said, when you finish on hole 6, how far are you realistically away from the water there, losing it into those trees and things. So yeah, that's, again, it was just to get it out there and start the discussion on it.
Interesting idea.
All right, we'll move on to Dateskate. And unfortunately, we had to cancel Dateskate. We were trying to look for some more winter COVID programming, something that was safe, you could stay distance. Our first couple to sign up, I believe, was right around the age of 65. So I was super excited that we would have anything from, an adult couple, and then you would see a grandparent with, one of their grandchildren, older brother with a younger sister, mom and son. That was kind of the goal for it. It didn't work out the way we wanted it to. If the interest just wasn't there, because most days you can go down and skate anyways. But we thought with a little bit of music, some glow sticks, mini donuts, a hot chocolate, with the lodge not being open, it was a nice way to get out and do something together, fun, and use one of the amenities that we already have in place. And I saw some other cities doing some things similar to that. Or if it was just for the fact of COVID going on and almost into Valentine's Day weekend, things like that, that we didn't get quite the interest we wanted. And to keep the food vendor there, we kind of had to basically promise a certain amount of attendees and a price that they would, or profit, they would make on it. We weren't really going to profit from this event, more of a break even, or maybe just a little bit after you include the staff that would be working that night. So it was really just to try and get something out there. We've got a few more ideas and events that we're going to run that I'll get into later, but we tried. It didn't work out. Some people are probably happier than others. It didn't work out. But I wanted to try something. We've been able to do some things here and there, but not nearly what we normally do. So it was worth a shot.
Moving on to gardening.
Corinne and Javier, her assistant, are now removing all of the holiday decorations. Wrapping Christmas lights, things like that can take a significant amount of time. I believe they have finished Mac, Charlevoix, Kercheval, and I'm almost positive Jefferson, or they're close to it. I don't remember driving by today what they had got done, but they're close there. Patterson will be the next thing they finish up on, and then it'll be wrapping lights for quite a while. That's what they're doing on the days they're not out removing it. So that takes quite a while, especially with only 2 individuals at this time. And they're getting ready for spring preparation. So Corinne's getting everything ordered up for the baskets that you see around town, and just having that ready to go. So when staff comes on, they're ready to take off with that. So she's doing a great job, especially again with most departments, limited staffing, things like that. They're working as fast as they can to get things done and move on to the next project event, or making sure they're ready to go for spring. We'll move on to old business. I don't have anything, Bob. I don't know if you do, but I don't think there's anything that we need to.
I don't know of anything at this point.
Sure.
Anybody else?
As for new business, Chili Fest. We've talked with Nick. Nick's been talking with council, trying to work with council to work on the downtown business areas and help out with some programming for the residents and ideas that will help bring those residents down to the business districts safely, and put some focus down there. So we've decided to take Chili Fest out of the parks this year and move them onto Kercheval and Charlevoix, and basically try to do as much as we can outdoors, open air, and include the businesses. So basically what our plan is to have main focuses on Kercheval and Charlevoix. We've hired a couple of carriage companies, and they are going to start on Charlevoix, right near Crown Realty, where that old gas station is. You will get in there, you'll take the ride down to Beaconsfield, turn at Howlers and Growlers, go down to Kercheval. We might have them pass Kercheval and turn into that back alley behind State Farm and Beaumont, go through there, take a right onto Lake Point, come up to the stop sign at Atwater and the parking lot there, shoot down, and then pull right back into Crown Realty and that gas station again, sanitize, pictures with the horses. Next group. The other location will be right down near Excalibur. They will hop on there. They'll take a right onto Maryland, go down Maryland, take a right on Kercheval, go up to Weyburn, take a right, and then take one more right off of Weyburn back onto Charlevoix. The process that we'll do for most of the events will be Sign Up Genius. So once we finalize things and everybody that's participating, those families will sign up for times, whether it's every 30 minutes, every 25 minutes. We're going to work that out with the company to make sure that a lot of times they want to get pictures, things like that, enough time to wipe down the carriages, and go that route. The other ideas that we're doing is we're looking at a couple of places to offer eyebrow waxes, mini manicures. We're looking to see if somebody like the Detroit Barber Shop will do a raffle of a certain amount of like beard oils and items like that. We've got a lot of commitment already from most of the restaurants to offer up some type of a food item. We were going to push initially chili, but not everybody serves that. So we didn't want to be a burden on these restaurants. We want them to showcase, a menu item that's a specialty of theirs. So they're committing to do something like that. We're working with them on giving them everything that they need as for food trays, bowls, prepackaged spoons, napkins, to not add any extra costs for them. We'll have ice sculptures in certain areas. We'll have strolling entertainers. And at a lot of the places like Ripe Records, they're gonna raffle off some record players with records, t-shirts. Gallery Animato is doing some big framed pictures or posters, items like that, autographed, Queen pictures, things like that. Duffy & Co., I believe, is going to have like a tarot card reader and some other things. So all of those indoor activities will be through Sign Up Genius. That way we don't have too many individuals going in at a time. The beauty parlor is going to do tinsel hair and things like that. They're going to tell me the number of texts they have, how long it takes, and then that will go up on Sign Up Genius, and individuals will register for that. So it's going to be something for all ages. It's great that it's a social district now, so the participating restaurants, you can grab a beverage, go to the next place. You'll have a snack, you can grab something to eat along the way. Again, the ice sculptures, the unicyclists, we're going to have warming stations, heaters, fire pits throughout that'll be manned. It's going to be on Saturday, February 27th from 2 to 6. So before we really get into, super dark time in the day, things like that, should be great. I think it's good. We're going to have a lot of safety protocols in place, and it's a big enough event that people will be able to space out and not be worried. So right now, I think we're right between 15 to 20 participating businesses, and it's a great way, again, to take it from the parks, push it out there, and really keep it outdoors, how we really want it to be ultimately, and work with those businesses, especially now that most of them, if not all of them, have opened up after February 1st. So we're excited. It's a lot of work, and we're getting there, but there's still a lot to do. So we're hoping to start advertising within the week or within a week or so.
Sounds like a great program, Craig. Next is the public comment non-agenda items. Let's, Marie,
give me just 1 second.
she's had her hand up.
Give me 1 second real quick. I just want to touch base on the scavenger hunt and the snowman contest. That's another couple of programs we're going to put in place just before Chili Fest leading up to it. What I hope to do is starting on the 12th, we will do a kind of a fuzzy penguin hunt. So we'll place stuffed penguins around all the local businesses, either in the window or inside of the business. And for 2 weeks or so leading up to the event and through the event day, residents will hopefully be able to download a fillable PDF type form. They'll put in their I or W to figure out where every penguin is at that business and submit it. And each week we'll pick a handful of random winners to get a gift card from one of those businesses, along with a snowman contest where we're working with a spray foam company who will build us life-size snowmen. And we're going to place those around the business districts and then have families sign up for free of cost with all the supplies. And they'll decorate those snowmen out in front of the restaurants and businesses the weekend before the event. So that'll add a little bit more decoration and community involvement with decorating those snowmen. So we've got a lot that hopefully will lead up to that and really make the event quite popular. And
What did you say the dates were on that, Chad?
the scavenger hunt will start on the 12th and go through the end of the event on the 27th. And then the snowman contest should be on Saturday, the 20th. They'll come down, they'll decorate everything that week before, and then have those snowmen ready to go for the 27th and then the following Saturday. So those 3 weekends in a row, should hopefully help the businesses and bring some residents some activities to do downtown.
All in February.
Yep.
Okay.
Like a great program.
Chad, well, you say it's a snowman contest, so there'll be judging and the winning entries will get a prize, a gift certificate or something like that?
Yeah, I've got to work out. I put snowman contest. I haven't finalized what we actually want to call it yet. The other city that I saw doing something similar to this actually had the participating businesses decorate them, where I think it might be better off right now that we have families giving them something to do. I think the businesses are going to be busy enough with, being back open again and depending on number of staff and things like that. I don't know if they'll want to take that work on, but I think they'd be happy to have something like that out in front of their business. So I think it's fun to incorporate that the residents can be given something. It takes a couple hours of their day, gives them something to do with the kids to go down. I don't know if, again, we'll pick some random winners, things like that, or even just the ones that participate get something, but we could go on the route of, best dressed or most creative, something like that, and award some winners that way by having either rec commission members, council members, Parks Direct staff go down there and judge, the number of snowmen that we have. We do a lot of different things.
You could also make it a community where people get a chip or a ticket or whatever, and they can just drop in the bucket for the one they want to vote for. Do it that way, and that draws people to check them all out.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's great. Again, to get more traffic down there.
Yeah.
Very good. Moving on to public comment, non-agenda items. I see Marina has been very patiently with her hand up. Is this something that we could unmute and at this point in time and have her public comment? Please.
Marina, I went ahead and unmuted you if you wouldn't mind stating your full name for the record.
Sure. My name is Marina Mafisenti. I just had a quick question about the dog park. It definitely won't take 3 minutes, but are there any allowances for guest passes? Like if you had a friend that had a dog but wasn't necessarily a resident of Grosse Pointe Park and you wanted to go to the dog park with a guest?
I could probably touch base on that. I'm thinking more than likely that's a good point. I'm going to bring that up, or at least make sure we cover that at the next meeting. Okay. My initial, well, actually, I'm sorry, I can't comment to that right now because I forgot it was the public comment time. But I'm going to take note of that.
Okay.
And then I'll discuss that with the group and go from there. I apologize that I started talking out of turn on that.
No, that's fine. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Joe, you've been having your hand up for a bit. Chris, could you unmute Joe and have your comment, please?
Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, guys. This is Joe Gleason again. Not going to comment on the dog park, but I do want to comment. You know, our country and our society is more divided than ever. And tonight we sat and listened to an individual cross the line with his comments towards the Grand Marais crowd in an unpositive way. Can we ask across the board to make a more positive effort in the way we communicate with each other and focus on solutions? That's it.
Thank you for your comment, Joe. Anna's iPhone. Chris?
Go ahead, Anna. State your full name for the record, please.
Thank you, Anna Signorino. I was listening in on some of the dog park rules, and we made comments whether it's a dog versus a dogs with a parenthesis around it, and will versus may, whether the child is 18 or 16 to come into the dog park. But the reality is, what I didn't hear is that every single dog park on Google Images says something to the effect that you have to use the dog park at your own risk. And also that the city is not liable for injury or harm to dogs or people. So if we're asking about the rules, what is the liability that the dog owner must have for their homeowner's insurance to be able to go into the dog park? So imagine if we had a rule that says use at your own risk, and we had that for the putting green or for the splash pad. What would happen if I want to bring back metal slides to the playground? You would say that's absurd. And yet we put a dire warning on the dog park rules that dogs are showing aggressive behavior must be removed immediately, and that young children less than a certain age are not permitted without supervision. That's a red flag, a warning to all that a dog park inside a residents-only city park is dangerous. And I'm going to tell you, I know dogs are dangerous. My 8-year-old daughter was hospitalized in July of 2020 due to severe facial and neck injuries after being viciously attacked and mauled by a dog. She will need several reconstructive surgeries to mitigate the damage and the scarring done to her skin. As a mother, I see her struggle with her own self-image and confidence, her intense fear of dogs. I'm asking, why can't a dog park be put someplace else besides Patterson Park? My daughter and the other 800,000 Americans who are hospitalized in 2020 from dog bites ought to have a place to go that's free from dogs. Put the dog park behind Pierce Middle School or at Trombley. Why inside Patterson Park? Why take away my family's place of refuge so that Farnan and Bannon can socialize with their dogs so that they can romp and play? I'm pledging $10,000 of my daughter's insurance settlement to Patterson Park so that we have a place to go that's free from dogs. The reality is a handful of residents are pushing for a dog park inside Patterson, but they're only doing it because they're selfish and greedy. They want to take away our community parkland that everybody can use and enjoy and give it to their dogs. Bannon, Martin, Denner, Cons, they refuse to pay us for the land that they're taking away from us and our children, while demanding that I and every other resident wants to pay or is demanded to pay for the dogs to romp and play, for the maintenance, the repairs, the upkeep, so that they can socialize. The dogs, the owners. If I suggested that my cats have 1/2 acre of Patterson Park.
Thank you for your comment.
I guess I'm going to call Joe again.
I believe it's
Joe Gleason, yes. Anna, thank you for sharing. My heart goes out to you. I saw the photos. It's all 3 of my kids have been hurt by dog, but not nearly to the extent. And I just want to say something as we close tonight. You know, the arguments made for why it's safe weren't because people were talking about putting a dog park inside of a community park that's designed for children with disabilities, adults with disabilities. The arguments talking about a park being safe were centered around putting it in a place that was isolated away from people that are at risk. And this is a very serious thing we're talking about. And I do not believe public comment has been properly addressed. And I would encourage, if at all possible, to delay construction until we've had real feedback from people who do use and enjoy this park, and we find a place that is safe for everyone. I love dogs myself, but you know, and I want to get away from this part of attacking and name calling and talk about the issue of not taking away people's right to enjoy. I mean, I walk that park with my mom. I see so many people come there, and I have seen what it looks like when someone gets their dog off a leash, and we know what's going to happen. And my final closing comment is there's absolutely no one on this phone call that can say there is not a risk that we're exposing people to by putting a dog park that in a park that's designed for people with disabilities, a place where people come for comfort and joy and peace. There is a risk, and it's a very, very, very serious risk. And we know we are going to see someone get hurt by continuing down this road, and there should be a better place for it, and we should consider it. That's it.
Thank you very much, Joe, for your comment.
Do we have any other new
Last item was
comments?
adjournment, and the next meeting was tentatively scheduled, I believe, for May 5th, but that may change.
And I will update that if it does. I'll put that on there and revise that. Okay.
With that said, I'd like to thank Chad and Chris for their thorough, complete, and very detail-oriented comments on all of the agenda items. They've done a wonderful job this evening. I heartily congratulate them on successfully having this meeting finally come to a close at 9:21 p.m. Do I hear a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Do I hear support?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Hearing all the ayes, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so very much for your attendance.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Good night.
Aye.